ready to go into the tournament and win, at least take your best shot at it. Do you think you're ready? Yes or no? It's like a yes or no question. Either you are sure or you are not sure. Madam? Yes, no? No. What about you? No. What about you? What about you? What about you?
It's not my first time.
The first time.
Middle way, I should say.
Middle way. Half sure. Fine. What about those in the back? You guys ready to take on? Okay. Now what I want you guys to tell me is, what do you think is standing in between you and being very comfortable going into the tournament? Just, what do you think is standing in your way? What do you think you need to know? What do you think you need to do to go into this tournament very comfortably? Just throw some. What's your fear of the process? Experience and practice, okay?
Exactly what I was saying.
Okay, what about? Okay, what about you guys in the back? What do you think you need? Out of the next two whiteboards, what do you think you need? What do you want us to do? Ladies?
We need to search about the topic.
That you're doing on your own, right?
Yes,
what do you want us to do? What do you think we need to do to help you go into this tournament comfortably? Hopefully, fingers crossed, win.
Tell us what sort of topics can come.
I think we need to practice.
What I can do is I can tell you on the topics that is not coming. That I can do.
Alright, sure.
I've got an entire list of topics which have been discussed and vetoed. I can tell you those.
You can tell us.
Please? Okay, we'll do that in this session. Okay, the other thing, those of you who are more experienced, what do you guys need from the next two sessions?
Strategic tactics. When to throw a POI, how to go about the case, when to do what.
When to do what, okay. What about you three? Have you guys debated before? I don't remember seeing your face on the circuit. Once. Which tournament?
UDC.
Okay, that was one intense tournament. Okay, so you guys are veterans now. If you've been through that tournament, that one particular ZUDC, the last one?
Yep.
A few months ago? If you've been through that, you're a veteran. That's why I said you're not a freshie. Okay, alright. So today's session, what I am going to do is I'm going to help you guys prepare cases. There's some cases where you look at the topic, you're like, oh, I know everything about it. Okay? For those of you who were there at the session on Tuesday, the debate that we had on Tuesday, my team suffered a classic problem with having too much information. Okay? Even after everything we threw, there was an entire other half that we didn't touch at all. Okay? I rotate. So there's one problem that you can deal with, that you might have to deal with, in which you have too much information on top. Okay? Another problem that you might have to deal with, which you might more commonly deal with, is not knowing much or not knowing anything about your topic. Two sides. Which problem would you rather have?
Not knowing too much.
Knowing too much?
Not
We nearly lost that debate because of knowing too much. Right? We want 10 votes to 7, which is really not a big deal.
But I heard the audience voted for you guys and the judge adjudicated in favor of AK.
This should party, man.
This is getting recorded, by the way.
Awesome, sure. I love you, man. Alright. So, essentially, whichever way. Initially when I thought about it, I thought the decision was unfair. I thought it should have been a clear vote for us. But when I thought about it more and more later, that vote was absolutely right. That debate was so muddled. In fact, I could think of 20 reasons why both sides should have lost the debate. I couldn't think of reasons why either side should have won that debate. Okay? That was the problem with having way too much information. And Guru suffers that same problem, we suffer the same problem. So they're both problems, but again, you think would rather have the problem having too much information? Yes. So I'm going to show you guys how you go from knowing little to knowing more on the side of too much. Okay? And that's all we're going to do today. Before we start, are there any questions, any issues, maybe any experiences that you guys might like to share? So that we can use this as context. Yeah,
It's not related to the thingy we are discussing,
okay.
But it's about POIs. I've heard judges remark that was a good POI, but you wasted it. What does that mean?
Wasted it means, see, the thing is, it's like this. There's a nail coming out of this desk. Okay? You need to hammer it back in. You get a hammer and you knock it gently. Okay? I'm giving an analogy here. If you knock it gently, that nail is not going to go back in, right? So you had the right thing that you needed to hit. You hit it, but you didn't hit it hard enough.
Okay.
Okay? That is what is usually happening when a judge tells you you wasted a POI. Okay? It means you just needed to hammer it home, or you needed to follow it up with a mention during your speech or during any subsequent speech that comes in. You need to batter it home. Let's say, for example, you pick up something absolutely crucial. Let's say, for example, Zohaib misquoted the Oslo Accords in his first speech. If we had raised it as a POI that you're misquoting the Oslo Accords, and then we didn't follow it up in our speeches, that would have been a waste.
Okay.
But if you bring it up, look, he's misquoted the Oslo Accords here, straight away you hammered that point home. Okay? Points of information are used either to strengthen your own case or to weaken your opponent's case. If you do either, you hit it home, but you need to drive it all the way. Okay? You ball aapne uchala, it doesn't go all the way out of the park, you don't get a 6, you usually get caught. Right? That's the analogy that's going on here. Okay? When you hit something, you got to hit it hard enough.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Jeet.
I've got an experience. This might ring a bell. You won't watch.
You were there for that one, that antic. Yeah, don't ever do that antic. Don't ever
That was awesome,
That
by
was
the way.
one time. That was a one-time
That was
thing.
awesome.
Even I would never do it again.
The what?
The bottle antic.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry that had to go on camera. But, okay, so let's
It
get started.
didn't actually.
So let's get started. You didn't catch it. Thank God. Aye. Go. Guys, let's say 2:30. Now, so today what we're going to do is we're going to look at two kinds of debates. Okay? One is principal debates, and one is policy debates. Thank you. Okay? So we have principal debates and we have policy debates. Generally speaking, you can differentiate between the two based on the first 3 or 4 words. If it says this house believes that, it's usually a philosophical debate. It's usually a principal debate. Okay? And if it says this house would, it is usually a policy debate. Please do not take this as a hard and fast rule, because it is not a hard and fast rule. There are plenty of hidden policy or hidden policy debates and plenty of hidden principal debates, which you look at it, it says this house believes that, when in reality it's a policy debate. For example, this house would allow the police to carry out summary executions, which means we will let the police kill a villain on the basis of suspicion alone. Okay? Now it's this house believes, right? It's a principal debate, but it is not a principal debate, it's a policy debate, because you need to lay out where and what kind of situations and how would you allow the police to do that. So you see, if you notice, that becomes a veiled policy debate. It is all about the policy. How are you going to allow it? How are you going to roll it out? How are you going to keep checks and balances? All of that, because of that it changes. But generally speaking, you would not be wrong 90% of the time if you believe that a THPT debate is a principal and a THW is a policy debate. 90% of the time you will be right. There's a last 10% that you will encounter once or twice in every tournament, but that's the worst it gets. Okay? Even then, as long as you prepared your case well, it really doesn't matter. Now the reason I started out by differentiating the two is because what we're going to look at is two models based on which you can prepare a case, depending on whether you're doing a principal debate or policy debate. Okay. The reason, the way you would choose between the two models is what are you trying to prove in this debate. Let's say, for example, this house would legalize the sale of human organs. If that's our topic. This is getting another one.
Lecture 1 is available.
Lecture 1 is available?
Yeah.
Let's go. Can we shift to lecture hall 1, because it's a bigger hall? Difference between the two, other than THBT and THW. What is the more appropriate distinction? Yes.
In a policy debate, it's you need to give a policy. That's something that's necessary.
Wow, I never thought of that. Now give me something a little more. Don't just paraphrase. Yeah.
And principal debate, you have to debate on why your reasons are right and why their reasons are wrong.
You're doing that on both sides. You're debating your reasons on both sides. What is the difference? There you go. Okay, he's quite right, but I need to get a little clearer than that. Yeah, Gautam, go for it.
In principle debate, you basically talk about beliefs. Whereas in policy, you need to implement those beliefs on some particular steps you take, the action you take.
Good. Would somebody like to take a different angle on the same thing? They're both right, by the way. Yes. Okay, again, something a little more than paraphrasing.
I don't know, I've never debated before, but like I'm getting the idea that in principle debates were more like idealistic, while more realistic in policy debates.
Yeah, that's also correct. So what all three of them have said, even the two of you who just paraphrased, you were not wrong, but again, I need a little more detail, but these three have laid it out pretty well. Essentially, in a principle debate, you're just looking for reasons, you're looking for beliefs as to why you're right. For example, this house believes that Lady Gaga is bad for feminism, is harmful for feminism. Okay, now in this case, there's no action that needs to be taken. It's just about, is she good for feminism, is she not good, or is she bad? Right? Which of the three is she? And that's the entire, that's the center of the entire debate. On this side, you're actually dealing with some action that needs to be taken. Okay? Some action that needs to be taken. So you need to explain what the need is for that action. Okay? You need to explain that action itself, and you need to clarify what the benefits or damages of that action are. Okay? And that is the difference between the two. On both sides, you have a principle that you're dealing with. On both sides, you're defending your views, or you're attacking your opponent's views depending on which side of the table you are. On this side, the only difference is on this side you have an action that you're dealing with. Okay? And because of that single difference, we use two different models to prepare cases on both sides. Okay? If you use those models, the good thing is it shows you how to think. So that all you need to do is pull out, okay, this might apply here, this might apply here, this might apply here. Okay? If you follow these models, you have a good chance of coming up with a case that has good structure, that has some good content, and that should be able to win you a few debates. Okay, so let's get started. Which side would you guys like to start with? Policy? Easier to start with? Okay, somebody give me a topic.
This house would ban ransom payments.
This house would
No,
ban
don't do that, don't do that.
Good topic.
You have to do it on Tuesday.
You have to do it on Tuesday?
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh, you guys are doing it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is that convert?
Smart
Yeah.
buggers these guys are.
This house would make Pakistan a welfare state.
This house would
This
make
house would
Pakistan
buy
a
local.
Hang on a second.
Would
This,
ban-
by the way, this is a veiled principle debate. It says THW, you can't actually take action immediately. There's no single action that you can take. It's a series of actions, and therefore you're only arguing for whether we should do it or not. Should we take that general direction or not? Okay? And therefore this is a veiled principle debate. Okay? You will encounter these. I'm just leaving them out for now. Somebody give me a policy debate. Yeah.
This house would break up all dominant political parties.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This
This
house would
house
ban
would
the
introduce community
break up
service
all-
compulsory.
Sorry?
This house would introduce compulsory community service, or this house would jail parents for the crimes of their children.
or this house
Let's
would
go for
ban
compulsory community
students.
service. That's a little easier to work with. Okay, that's a little easier to work with. So this house would, could you say that again, Nayel?
This house would introduce compulsory community service.
Introduce
Compulsory community service.
compulsory community service. Alright. Now, if this is the topic, this is the action that the debate that we're debating, right? Should we make community service compulsory or not? Okay, this is the entire center of the debate. Okay, are there any definitions that anybody would like to clarify over here? Any words that are not immediately understood? Show of hands. Anybody know? Can I move on? Other definitions assume compulsory means you have to do it. Community service means you have to serve the community in some way or the other.
But like what about a certain age?
Now this is where the topic, this is a particularly well worded topic because you need to define that as a debater. Okay, so you've got on to something very smart. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at PAO. P is the problem, A is the action, and O is the outcome. Okay? This is the model you use. If you keep filling in, if you come up with, let's say, for example, 4 to 5 to 6 of these, depending on case to case, for some 3 are enough. 3 is about the minimum you should have, but you can even go down to 20 or 30. Okay?
What exactly do we need to go?
See.
20, 30?
You need to come up with, the action is introduce compulsory community service, obviously because this is the action we're looking at. So the action column is filled, is pre-filled for you. Okay? It is introducing compulsory community service all the way. Okay? What problems could we address? And if this was the problem, this is the action we're taking, what would the outcome be? Okay? If you think along those lines, you will have a case pretty quick. Hey, Madhavi. All good? Alright. So, now let's start having some fun. Give me a problem that could be solved by introducing compulsory community service. Yes.
Garbage disposal.
Garbage disposal. Okay, what about it? Is that a problem? Is garbage disposal a problem?
Garbage collecting.
Okay, so there's a lot of trash lying around. Right? Okay, there you go. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's your thing. That's yours.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay. So we have garbage. Garbage is a problem. How do we get rid of it? By introducing compulsory community service.
Should we be defining the house first, because in a lot of countries garbage disposal is not much of an issue.
Okay, that's good. So are we keeping this house to Pakistan? Are we developing countries or developed countries? Huh? Never do that.
Yeah, that
Your choices are Pakistan, US, developed, developing.
EU.
Stay safe.
EU.
A lot of the times you might get told, okay, look, this is just going too far. This requires specialist knowledge, unless the topic requires it. In these kind of generalized topics, you should choose between Pakistan, US, developed, developing. That's it.
So why don't we go on the reverse side? Why don't we talk about both?
You could.
You don't remember that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Alright, so there's garbage disposal. Right? The action is compulsory community service. I'm just going to call it CCS. Alright? What outcome could you possibly have, Gautam? This is an easy one.
Less garbage.
Less garbage.
Improve hygienic conditions.
Less garbage.
Cleaner environment.
Less garbage. Cleaner environment.
Less diseases.
Think of one more at a government level. Think government level.
Less illness.
Huh?
Less government expenditure.
Less expenditure. Who is this? There you go, madam. That's what I was looking for. Okay? Lower cost. If you make it compulsory on every person to take out their own garbage and dispose it themselves, and you tell them how to do it, right? That is compulsory community service, which helps you reduce your cost of garbage disposal. Okay? What else? Let's come with another problem. Somebody? Yes.
Education.
Just a second. Yes.
Like I was saying, illiteracy.
Illiteracy. Okay, there you go. Illiteracy where?
Illiteracy, and maybe in the rural areas they can teach illiterate children.
Rural illiteracy. Okay. So again, the solution is compulsory community service. Who would you send? Let's be a little more specific about the action. Who would you send? College students like us. Okay? And I'm not really a college student anymore, but I love college. Okay? You send college students here. Okay? What is the outcome?
A more literate country.
A more literate country. You're spreading literacy, right? You're spreading literacy without having to spend too much on infrastructure, right? Make sense? Spreading literacy without capital expenditure. Because if you were to send hired teachers there, you would have to pay them, you would have to build schools properly, you have to do a lot. It takes a long time, you get it done faster. So you see you have all these advantages coming up. Okay? Somebody give another one, yes.
I got something for the...
You want to say something?
Yeah, I was about to say the education literacy.
You want to try another one?
Uh,
20 to go around. Go around it. Yes. Huh?
Traffic congestion.
Traffic congestion. Okay, this one you have to explain to me. How does CCS solve it?
Many people park the car in the wrong way, so we can post some people there, volunteers to guide them to
So
park.
traffic management. ठीक है, alright, there you go. ठीक है. We have traffic issues. Traffic, community service, traffic management, better traffic management. It's already happening in Karachi, by the way. See, now that's the thing. You've got to think locally as well. Think about what's happening around you. You've seen traffic volunteers, right? So that's all he came up with. You've seen education problems. That's what both Teniat and, I'm sorry, what's your name, sir? Hamza, both of them came up with. Okay, so think locally. What are the local problems are there that you would solve? Yeah.
Deforestation.
Deforestation. How do you solve deforestation?
By planting trees.
There you go. Okay. So let's carry on this side. PAO.
Can't you ask NGOs to do
Wait a second. Desertification is a problem.
Deforestation.
Deforestation is a cause. Okay, deforestation is a cause of desertification. The problem is we don't have enough green cover, right? Because then we've got deserts going on. We've got deserts spreading. So the action is compulsory community service. We're going to get people to plant trees. Okay? Who are we going to get to plant trees? Children. Again, people our age. Again, everything you see is coming around to people our age. So that is something you note over here. Compulsory community service for college students. Or let's say for students, you're right. Whoever that was, you're right. Okay? Let's say we're keeping it to 4 students. You see how material is coming out? Okay? Desertification, improved green cover because we have more trees. Okay? What else?
Homelessness.
Huh?
Homeless people, supporting the homeless.
How do you solve it?
How you solve it? You can give them shelter, you can go out there and give charity.
I'm going out there and doing what community service am I doing that solves this problem?
Like the proper people can go there and support them by giving them stuff, like you can help them with money, or you can bring them to your houses and support them for some days. Not for some days, or you can support
Come up with an easier thing that I might actually do. Now make it a little easier. Huh?
support a particular family with money.
Okay, do fundraisers for them.
Financial risks.
Okay, so poverty and homelessness, can we club the two together, madam? Okay, thank you. Poverty and homelessness. Okay, CCS again, and here we have funds being generated. Is it, okay, you raised this point, right, of poverty. Is it possible, if I have to give compulsory community service, I don't have time but I have money. Can I donate money and get it over with? Is that okay?
No.
Would you allow that?
No.
Why not?
Because we don't know if it's going to the right place. If you do it through an NGO.
It's going through an NGO. Let's say we set a channel. It has to go through the school, it has to go through school's management.
I have to see that is that money being used on the properly, is it being used properly? I have to go there, give it and see to it like monthly that it's...
So see now this is a point that is raised, that could be raised for either side, whether it's prop or whether it's op. You could raise this point for either side. Okay, so the question is, how are you going to administer this policy? Okay, how are you going to administer this policy? Okay, what else? What other new problems are there that could be raised? Yes?
Talking about another problem,
Go for it. Lack of medical facilities. How do we ensure that? How do you and I solve lack of facilities? Neither of us are doctors.
You can send young students who are doctors help to.
Okay, so medical students going out, right?
Can't we use the word civic services as a whole?
Sorry?
Can't we use the word civic services?
Community and civic are alternate to each other in this case. Okay, lack of medical services.
Or you can say lack of awareness regarding hygiene
Or even awareness, okay.
or polio vaccinations.
Yeah. Okay. So again, community services again, and here we have more hands, more people working on these problems. Right? We need people working on these problems. We don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough people spreading awareness. So you need people. So you have more people spreading this awareness, right? That's the solution. Yes, Gautam?
About emergency situations like floods and natural disasters.
What about floods and natural disasters? What about?
You can have fundraisers, have students collect funds, stuff and
Floods and disasters. Again, community service, right? What else? What is the solution? One second. Hang on to that thought. Yeah.
The government has to, less
Okay.
rely on less
So fundraisers, then eases government's job. Okay. What else? Yes.
Finding home for stray animals.
My point.
You're telepathic, you're broadcasting signals. Okay, maybe stray animals, right? Stray animals and stray ideas. Community service, how does this help? Okay, chalo. I'll give you a chance. How does community service solve the problem?
We'll find homes for the stray animals, and there'll be
Okay.
less people running away from the stray dogs and the cats.
So like vaccination schemes should reduce the potential threat of
Okay, so vaccination schemes, finding homes. What else?
Lack of security.
Huh?
Lack of security.
Lack of security. Okay. You're going to get us to go take guns and like stand outside.
No, you can still have community watches though.
Community watches, there you go. See? Security issues, community service, community watch. Right? Is Amra still available? Yeah, it's not. Can you please give my phone to Amra? Alright, so see already we started out from nothing and we got to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 points in no time. Yeah.
You skipped my candy.
I skipped your candy?
Yeah.
For what?
I just gave you a point.
Which one?
The community service.
Alright, yeah, last one.
Orphanages, lack of orphanages, that's the problem. For the orphans.
For the orphans, like animal orphans or human orphans? ठीक है? Orphans. Okay, what do we do? Community service. How does community service solve this problem?
You can have volunteers, in fact, you can encourage the NGOs.
Volunteers at the orphans, at the orphanages.
Yeah. Or encourage the NGOs to
adopt them.
Volunteers / adoption. Alright. You can't make adoption compulsory by the way.
Yeah.
You have an action instead of the outcome.
Okay.
Adoption being an action.
Child labor. Child labor can be an option.
Child labor can be.
A problem.
So we have social issues. Let's make it a little more general than just. We have social issues such as child labor. How do these get solved by community service?
Children can take a time after their education to educate them.
Spreading awareness, right? So suddenly we've gone from having nothing on the board to having 12 points. You've got 12 lines of argument right there. Okay? I haven't gone around to analyzing quality yet. Okay? I've not started analyzing the quality of these arguments yet. The only thing is you have 12 on the board. Suddenly you've gone from having nothing to having too much. Make sense? Can you guys do that in another debate? Can you guys do what we just did right now? Can you do this for another debate?
Yes.
Was this system difficult or was it easy enough to follow?
Easy.
Man, that sounds so forced. I'm not giving you guys any sweets for this. Was it easy?
Yes.
That was really easy. I was about to say, okay, now I'm offering you sweets. Now was it easy? But I guess I don't know. This is how you look. This is how you prepare the prop side of this debate. Okay? Now what you need to do next is just pick which are the really important ones. Or can we club some of them together?
Illiteracy.
Illiteracy is important.
We can club illiteracy and the last social issues.
And social issues together?
Yeah.
Okay, let's club these two together. Call this one. Call this one. What else? How else would you sort them out?
Homelessness and orphans.
Yeah.
Homelessness and orphans. Okay, so you want to club these two together?
Yeah.
Okay, let's call this two. Let's call this two. Show it.
Medical service and floods and disasters.
Medical service.
And floods and disasters.
We'll club these two together.
I think clarification and disaster would be
Let's club desertification as well.
Garbage and pollution.
Garbage and
Garbage, desertification,
pollution. Desertification.
and garbage.
And garbage.
Okay. ठीक है. So I take 3 and number to 4. ठीक है. What else? So see, now you've got 4 concrete lines of argument. Hello. So now you've got 4 concrete lines of argument. You have 4 solid problems that compulsory community service can answer, and you've got the justification for it. Okay, so suddenly you move from having nothing on the page to having your case ready. And how long does this take us? Sorry? If it's in 15 minutes, you've got an entire case. Yeah.
I didn't get my candy.
Hey, yaar. ऐसे क्यों? Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. ठीक है, so.
She's by the way, she was
Yes, you also. It's for social good. Alright, so essentially that's how you build a case. Now what you've got is, now Shoaib, can you take all the 2 ones, illiteracy and what you call it? Where's the other one? Social evils. Can you take the 2 and combine them into one line of argument? Illiteracy and social issues. Can you combine them into one argument, one line of argument?
Lack of literacy and social issues.
Lack of literacy and social issues. Don't answer.
No, the problems are lack of literacy and social issues, right?
Yeah.
And you want to combine them into one line of argument.
These are 2 problems which are being solved by compulsory community service. How do you present it as a line of argument? How do you present it?
Not really related.
Yeah, actually they are.
They're not related that much.
Illiteracy and
Is there a difference in illiteracy?
Somebody else like to take a shot? Yes.
Some forms of illiteracy, like illiteracy amongst females, is actually a social issue, isn't it? So, won't it
That could be one way of doing it. So how would you present it? Present it as a line of argument.
Sorry, I didn't really get the question. Sorry.
If you were presenting this in a debate, have you debated before? Somebody who's debated recently. Gautam, take a shot.
Eradication of social issues.
Go on, make an entire line of argument. Yeah.
How we can present is that we believe that eradicating social issues such as illiteracy and bringing the literacy to the society can help cover other social evils for which illiteracy is a root.
I think all you've done is club them together. What I want you to do is present the entire line of argument as you would in a debate.
Isn't spreading of awareness basically increasing literacy?
Yeah,
Making community service compulsory will help eradicate illiteracy and other social issues.
expand it into entire point of view, into entire line of argument. Okay, I'll just give you guys an example. Essentially, the way I would do it is, ladies and gentlemen, this house believes that we need more of the community. We cannot rely on the government paying people to get these 2 problems solved, which are the social issues that we face, on which we need awareness to be spread to the population. And then we have literacy problems where again you need people to go out, particularly to the rural areas, and educate our poor. Because we believe the government will function too slowly, it is faster for us to make community service compulsory. And therefore we have the volunteers and the manpower to go out to these areas, to go out to these people, to talk to them, to educate them. And therefore we help reduce social issues such as child labor, because we have people like us, people who are educated, people who can talk to others, people who can spread awareness, go out there, do it, and help us reduce these issues. Alright, and for this reason, we would make community service compulsory at school and college level. Okay? So that's how you made an entire line of argument of it. Sorry? It is one line of argument because you have 3. Normally you have 3 lines of arguments in an entire debate. You have 3 lines of argument. Right? 3 to 4 lines of argument. You should not have more than that. So you need to make it long enough. Right now, in fact, I condensed it. If I were doing this in a debate, I'd actually expound on it more. Because you need to cover 24 minutes worth of speeches on this.
No, I think.
Lines of argument. Right? So you need to explain it well. Okay, why are we doing this? What are we getting out of it? Okay, how are we going to manage it? You need to explain all of these issues out.
But you want them condensing a line of argument. You're actually explaining the whole thing.
Yes, that's what I was doing. I was saying club the 2 points together, bring them together,
And make a
line of argument out of it.
But you just explained everything together. You didn't make a line of argument.
The line of argument is, one second. The line of argument is that we believe in compulsory community service will help us raise the manpower that we need to combat social issues, particularly child labor and illiteracy. That's your line of argument, and I gave you the entire explanation as well. Okay, what you're looking for is the tagline. Okay, that's the only thing that you were missing. You wanted the tagline. So I gave you the tagline, I've given you the entire argument, and I've given you the link. Okay, on this point, please, the link is the difference between 99% of teams that lose and that 1% that is just plain unlucky. Okay? There's the 1% of times you're going to be up against a team which you just have no shot of beating. Okay? That happens 1% of the time. 99% of the time you lose because your links will lose. Okay? If you keep telling me that look, we're trying to combat social evils, we need the manpower, and therefore we will make community service compulsory so that we have that manpower that we need to get this work done. Take it, you see the link. The problem that we're trying to solve and the topic at hand, if you keep linking them back at the end of every line of argument, keep repeating the topic for some reason, just keep repeating the topic, you will keep making those links more and more. Okay? So if you make it a point, at the end of every line of argument, you have to repeat the topic. Your links will start coming in automatically, and that increases your chances dramatically of winning. Is that clear? Take a minute to chew over it. This is a very deep point. Yes. Are there any questions on this point? Please raise a question. This is a very, very good question. This is something you need to remember at all times. Building the link between your argument and the topic has to happen at all times. Yes?
What kind of example can we quote here? Is it necessary?
What kind of example can we quote for this? The example that you can quote is that in Balochistan, it has been made compulsory for every university student to go out and teach in a rural area. This policy was not implemented in Balochistan, but it was implemented in South Korea. In South Korea, the literacy rates have gone to nearly 80%. And that's the example that you quote, because even in rural areas, you have volunteers going out and teaching at schools, even on retreats. Even at your open air schools, you have students going out and teaching there. University students, college students, you have them going out there and teaching them. That's the example that you said.
Is it okay to give just an analogy instead of an example if we don't have to?
Works fine, statistic works fine, example works fine. Something to just make your argument very clear and easy to understand. Sometimes you can even get away without any of these. There are times you can get away without any of these. Using them is a good thing because it just helps you clarify your argument. Yes, I saw 2 hands going up, one on this side, one on this side. No? Hand withdrawn? Alright. Now on the off side, what did you do? Sure? This is the props case. How will you attack it?
We'll say that we cannot introduce a compulsory community service because it's the right of the people themselves to do whatever they want to do with their free time and whatever they want to do. You cannot force this upon anybody.
It's like conscription. Take that.
Free will.
What else? A bad throw, a bad shot. Alright, what else? How else would you attack this case? Anyone?
Not exactly attacking it, but you can ask them for policy, like how exactly do you plan on implementing it?
Okay, good. That's a good question. Please note this point. This is I'm going to expand on in a bit. Yes, ma'am. So how are you going to deal with inconveniences and exceptions? Sorry.
That would come under your definition.
That would come again questioning the policy itself. Yes.
Most of the actions we are talking about volunteers. How would they be volunteers if you are forcing them?
Volunteers. Exactly. What else?
Op can also talk about the compliance you'll have while you're forcing community service. I mean, will people really be doing their job amicably? They might
Okay, how you will watch the policy? Okay, what else?
If you force people to go and manage the traffic, it can lead to traffic accidents because they don't know much how to manage the traffic themselves.
Exactly. How do you make sure that they actually know how to do their job?
On your policy.
There you go. Yeah.
If you're reducing the time that the people work at their actual jobs, then would that be reducing the efficiency of the country?
Sorry?
Would that be reducing the efficiency of the workforce of the country?
Wouldn't that be reducing the efficiency of the work? So that's basically questioning the outcomes, right? What happens in the outcomes? You maybe solve one, you might be solving one problem, but creating another. Okay, what else?
You can
Daily students, it's not necessary that they will do all the things efficiently. It's not work out
May not be working fine, exactly. So that means the outcome may be less than what you're promising it is. Is that my phone or someone else's? Please take the call. Alright.
You can also argue on a principal level that it's not the job of the community to address and solve these problems. The job of the government, the state.
That is such a difficult line to take. Okay, so whose job is it? Okay. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to start generalizing these points. Hang on to that thought, alright? I'm going to start generalizing the areas in which we're looking at a framework, right? So let's look at the framework again. We talked about problem, action, and outcome. Okay? You can attack the proposition's case at all these three levels. So the first thing is they say that illiteracy is a problem. Okay? You might say, dude, illiteracy is not a problem. Okay? You might be so brave so as to say, yeah, literacy is not a problem. Okay? You obviously would be foolhardy to do that, but let's look at it. Let's look at it on another scale. Let's talk about the floods and the disaster. Okay? You might say it is not a problem for us to deal with because you have government agencies, you have international agencies that are dealing with the problem already. So there is no problem as such that is left for the community to deal with. Okay? Now that is something you might be able to defend, especially if you are like, for example, in Cuba. If you're talking about developing countries, you might be talking about Cuba. In Cuba, floods and disasters are not a problem. The government is fantastically set up to take care of it. Okay? Pakistanis are not, surprise, but the Cubans are. Alright, so you might argue that floods and disasters is not a problem.
Bangladesh?
Bangladesh, exactly, is another example where neither literacy is a problem nor disaster is a problem. The government is well equipped. It happens every year, the government is prepared to deal with it.
Traffic jams aren't big enough of a problem.
Traffic jams are not big enough of a problem, exactly. Okay? You might argue that the problem that you are telling us about is not big enough. Okay? So if we're looking at where is it dust up? Okay, I'll just come on this side. So if we're looking at the problem, the action and the outcome, on the problem side you might just say there's no problem at all. You might say the problem isn't big enough. Right? Like for example, floods is a problem in Pakistan, but maybe there are plenty of agencies working on it and therefore it is now reduced to such a small problem. It's not worth implementing such a large scheme to get to attack this particular problem. Right? Or what you might do is, the third thing that you might say is that there is no link between your problem and your action. Exactly. There is absolutely no link. Sorry, this comes on this side.
There's a part where you agree with the need and not with the policy.
You agree with the need, but you say your policy is going to do nothing about it. Okay, you might say that we're talking about lack of medical facilities. And you say, hey, the majority of students are not doctors. Right? What's the point of sending a business student to provide health services? Right? So there's no link between the problem and the solution. You might attack it at that level. Okay? I'm sorry, I'm just going to hang with that for a second. Okay? The other thing is, you might say that yes, there is a problem, but the part that we're addressing isn't big enough to make it worth the while. Okay? The impact of the solution is not big enough. Okay? So that will come on this side, the impact.
Then the prop can just say it, so you're just going to ignore that.
For example, there was a debate that happened right here at AKU in which Prof said we would ban cars in going into the city so that we can reduce air pollution. Okay? The opposition came up and said that is not true because the pollution caused by cars is a very small fraction of the total air pollution being caused. It's a very, very small fraction. Okay? So going to such a large policy of banning cars is a very big thing to do. The cost is too high, but the benefit is too small. Take it? So you're looking at the size of the impact.
Cost benefit analysis.
Cost benefit analysis. Take it? Impact is always a cost benefit analysis. Remember, if you are doing a policy debate, CBA, cost benefit analysis, is your best friend as opposition. Okay? As the opposition, your cost benefit analysis is your best friend, because you need to show the cost is too high, the benefits are too low. Hey, it's not worth it. Right? Even if you can demonstrate that much often enough, you can win the debate. Just by saying, fine, your policy might do a few things, but the costs are this high, the benefits are this low.
So the viability and feasibility.
Viability and feasibility. Now, feasibility is another point. Okay? Attack feasibility. Okay, your plan sounds great, but dude, it's impossible to pull off. Right? Like what somebody already raised, if you have, how would you make it compulsory on everybody to do it? Particularly the handicapped, what you mentioned. Okay? How do you make sure that every college, every kid is doing it? Okay? So it's not possible. You're spending so much to make sure compliance is happening that you might as well have put it in these directions and solve these problems directly. Why did you need to go through the step of community service? आपने feasibility को attack किया है. ठीक है? That makes sense. Then you might attack the policy itself. In terms of, you might say that this policy is very difficult to pull off, or it has negative outcomes. This policy may be creating more problems. Can somebody give me an example?
Somebody said the efficiency of the people working.
Exactly, there you go. If you're sending incompetent people to do a particular job, people who have no education or experience in that particular field to do a particular job, they might end up creating more trouble. Send a business student to draw blood, to do blood collection drives. You're going to have serious problems, right? So basically, you attack the problem, you attack the policy on that level. It's creating more problems that you're doing. So again, we're building the case on problem, action, and outcome. We're attacking it on problem, action, and outcome. If you keep this model in mind, you will never have a problem actually building the case. Questions? Speak now. Otherwise, I'm going to tear you to pieces. Yes?
We can only write the stuff until we hear proposition speech, but in the 30 minutes...
In the 30 minutes, you're doing the same thing. You're trying to identify what kind of problems could they come up with. How do we reduce these problems to a very small thing? If they're going to talk about compulsory community services, you know they're going to talk about bringing manpower to solve various problems. See, so you're prepared. This side you normally need to wait for though. But these two sides. Think about what problems community service could create. Right? It could create the problem of incompetent people going out. It could cause problems of compliance. It could cause problems of people not wanting to donate anymore. Because, hey, our kids are going and doing good work, so why do we need to donate money anymore? Our guilt is gone. The guilt that drives us to donate. By the way, in case nobody is aware, Pakistanis are the biggest donor to Pakistan. Even bigger than the United States and the UK and Germany combined. We are the biggest donors. Okay? So if our kids are going off, if all of us are going out, our parents might say, hey, there's no need to give any more money because we're doing our part, we're playing our part, our kids are going and doing their various work. So it's good enough. Right? So that's a problem that could be created. You might create a shortage of money. Okay? That's a possible problem that could be created. The link, sure that they build the link. This is what you use for rebuttals. The link between the policy and the problem that they stated. Question the link at all times. This is how you build your rebuttal. You do know that you need to build a rebuttal on the fly at all times. Right? First prof speaks. If you're first off, you need to rebut what first prof has said. Yes, no?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. These are the tactics you use. Okay, question them on these 3 grounds and you will definitely have something to question them on. Yes, Gautam?
What if we have a proposition that forgets to mention the link, and then we have the opposition telling them about the link?
Don't tell them the link. Tell them there is no link. Tell them you need to prove a solution. You're throwing a solution in the air for a problem that may not exist or a problem that may not do anything. So what as opposition, what you're doing is you're saying that look, हमने solution तो आपने खड़ा कर दिया, किसी चीज का impact नहीं हो रहा. If there is no benefit, why will you incur these costs? And all you need to do is prove that. You need to prove what the costs are. Show that according to their policy, the benefits are nothing. CBA again. That's why I said CBA is your best friend all the way. Okay, yes.
Is it a good idea to attack the feasibility by saying that it's not been done already?
It's not been done already.
Or it's not been done before?
It's not been done before. If you're saying it's not been done before, then you need to prove why it hasn't been done before. Because Prof might come and say, yeah, nobody's thought of it before. We're thinking of it for the first time, and therefore that's why nobody's done it before. So in that case, Prof will be safe. But if you can say that somebody's thought of this before and the idea has been shot down before, then yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, you have material coming out of there. Yes, sir.
Maybe if we say that it hasn't been done before, you can say it would yield which results you can't really.
You need to prove that. Then you need to prove that. But yes, you can do that. Somebody else had a question this side? No? Okay. Yeah.
For this topic, the Prof can go with status quo. For this topic, for this motion, Prof can go with status quo.
Status quo, there is no compulsory community service right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is no status quo for them to go with.
They can say that fine, we agree with the status quo, but we want to bring in a new policy.
There isn't status quo anymore.
Yeah.
Status quo is exactly what's happening right now.
As you're saying, yeah.
Makes sense? Alright. Now guys, I'm going to divide you up into two sides. Okay? And then further you guys divide yourselves into two teams. Alright, I'm going to give you a topic. I'm going to generate a case based on this policy. Right now, you have 20 minutes to do it. Alright? Alright, gentlemen at the back, 1. Next to you, 2. 1. 2. Alright, please say your number. Let's start again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Daniel?
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Nice one. 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1. Say 1. Say 1. I explained to you. 2. Hang on. 2. Alright. All the 2's shift to this side, all the 1's shift to that side. You have a choice. Alright, so these are 2 prop speakers, these are 2 off speakers.
And could you all also introduce
You have
yourself?
5 minutes or less. You have 5 minutes or less. I want the definition, I want your policy, and I want your lines of argument. Again, you need to have about 3 to 4 lines of argument. Do you have that? You? Ibrahim, what about you? You have 3 to 4 lines of argument? Yes, 3. Like not more, not less. Both. 3 to 4. Or do you have more? 3. 3 is more. How many do you have? 3. 3. 3. Tell me how many do you have? Fantastic. Alright, let's start from Prof.
And could we have names and school names as well? If we could just...
Okay, come to the center. Okay. Introduce yourself. Introduce the topic. And say which side you're on, and then go into all 3. Whichever view is ready, you can use your notes. You don't need to memorize this. Step up. Thank you so much.
Our topic for debate today is that this House would legalize all recreational drugs. By legalize, we mean that we would make it legal. That is, we would take it from under the counter to over the counter. By recreational drugs, we define recreational drugs as drugs which are used for recreational purposes and which are not highly addictive, such as alcohol, and not highly addictive drugs like heroin. Okay. So we will be arguing based on three lines of argument. The first is that by legalization of
Ladies and gentlemen in the back. Excuse me. Speaker talking. British Parliament, etiquette requires we listen, even if he's speaking crap. Doesn't matter. We listen. Alright? He's not speaking crap.
Can you ask questions in this British Parliament?
Once he's done, yes.
Okay. We will be doing it based on three lines of argument. The first line of argument is that by legalizing the drugs, we will be bringing them from under the counter, that is the black markets, to over the counter, in which way we will be able to keep some checks and balances as to how much drugs are being used and as to how much and as to the level of drugs being sold. Our second line of argument is that by legalizing drugs, we will be controlling the amount of drugs the society uses. So we will be thereby dealing with the problem of people using the drugs without moderation, which further leads to deaths and health issues. Okay, and our third point is that by legalizing of drugs, we will be eliminating the problem of having unauthorized drugs, which are usually of bad quality, so that also leads to people dying. Another point that we had was that by legalizing drugs, we will be moving the circulation of money from the black markets and the drug cartels towards the government. By doing this, the government will be able to generate revenue through taxing the sale of drugs. Okay, our policy of going about it is that we will have authorized drug distribution centers, which would be giving the drugs to people in specific amounts, in controlled amounts. So people will not be able to buy however much amount of drug that they want. Plus, you will also be keeping a higher price of the drug, because even though we are legalizing it by this way, we will be discouraging it to some extent. And we will also be taxing the sale of these drugs so that the government can earn some revenue, and this revenue may be going into running the system that we are into running these authorization centers, and to keep the check and in making sure that these checks and balances work. Okay, so the first line of argument was that we will be moving it over the counter, which would lead to us having checks and balances of the drugs. Okay, so when we will be moving the drugs, when we will be legalizing it, people would be buying the drugs from these distribution centers instead of approaching the black markets and the drug mafia. By doing this, the people will have an open way of buying them, which is legal. And by doing this, they would also be safe from the manipulation of the drug mafia. For example, the drug mafia prices the drugs high, and when people are not able to pay, these people are manipulated, and these people are made to do things against their will. So by doing this, we will also be reducing the pressure of the drug mafia on the people. We will be, in effect, we will be eliminating the purpose of there being a drug mafia. So this will lead to less crime in general as well. Our second line of argument was that we will be controlling the amount of drugs that people use. That is, we will be eliminating the problem of people using drugs without moderation. So when people use drugs without moderation, obviously anything when too much of it is taken is harmful. So in the same way, too much use of drugs is harmful to the body. So by legalizing it and by ensuring that a specific amount of drugs is sold to a person at one time, we will be controlling the amount of drugs that people administer at one particular time. So in this way, we will be controlling the amount of drugs being used, and there will be no overdosage of drugs. So this will also lead to less deaths, and this will also control the level of addiction of people. The third line of argument was that we would be eliminating the problem of unauthorized making of drugs and selling of drugs, and moving the circulation of money from the drug market to the government. Okay, so when drugs are illegal, people make it in any manner. For example, in Pakistan, we have people in the suburbs trying to make it themselves. They ferment it themselves. So what happens is that many times, like for example in the case of alcohol, they don't do it properly and it leads up to being poisonous, so people die. So when we will make it legalized and we have authorized distribution centers for this, we will be ensuring that there's a quality of drug, a specific quality of drug that's being sold to the person, that it is not detrimental to his health. Our last point was that we would be shifting the circulation of money from the drug mafia mafias, from the drug cartels, which brings about negative effects and further promotes the crime circle. Instead, we would be shifting the circulation of money towards the government. That is that when we will tax the sale of drugs and make it legal to buy drugs, then we will be providing people with an alternative pathway to have drugs. In this way, the power of the drug mafia will be reduced, their funds will be reduced, and in this way, their network will shrink. And in this way, it will also be positive for the government as the tax revenue generated could be used for more positive things. Next question.
Gentleman in the orange shirt and lady in the corner, please stand up, both of you. Okay, hang on a second, stay there. I want you to give me 3 lines of argument, just one sentence. How many lines of argument did he have and what was it?
He had 3 lines of arguments, and he talked about basically that.
What is the first line? What is the first line?
It will be that we would keep it in check with the circulation of the drugs.
Okay, 2.
And the second one was that it would stop the black market from being over the counter to under the counter. And third one, I could not really hear him.
Of course you couldn't. So how many lines of argument do you have?
3.
4.
Yeah, we have 4 points per se.
Okay.
And
Someone
the
speaking.
fourth
First rule of debates, even if you forget etiquette, you can be as rude as you want, but if you're not listening to your opponent's speaker, trust me, you've had it. Because you can't come up with rebuttals if you are not listening to it. Okay? Madam, for his 4 lines, can you give me 1 rebuttal?
The last rebuttal that you missed out.
Give me any rebuttal.
Oh yeah, the rebuttal that he said was that getting them out of the the black market and getting out in the open. That's what he said.
So rebut it. Rebut is out.
Oh sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You want me to give you a rebuttal for it?
Yeah, give me 1 rebuttal.
Oh yeah, the thing he said that the crime rate will go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you think that the mafia, the whole idea of the mafia, that's not it. For crime rate, shouldn't it be that you should have better police or from judiciary for that?
Yeah, but then...
Whoa. Debate 101, again debate 101. A debate is never a conversation between 2 people. Okay? If you want to rebut, you show what's wrong and give an alternate.
Can I give 1 rebuttal also?
Sure, go for it.
They said that the government and the distribution centers can check how many people can buy the drugs, but they can only check that the drugs that are being sold. The people who buy the drugs can sell it to other people who actually want the drugs by illegal means. So they cannot check people administering the drugs, but they can check the people buying the drugs.
Alright. Alright, prop side.
Could we have his school name?
Prop side, I will now pull up somebody from this side to rebut. Alright?
Wait. What's his school name?
So please listen carefully to what she's saying. Write it down, even better.
Nayel? Just one. What's his school name? No, school name.
What school is
School's
it
name,
from?
Deacon House.
Okay. And introduce yourself as well.
This is Nana Arya from Degree College in Phase A. This house will not legalize
Just a second, Nana. Just speak louder, please. They can't hear you.
This house will not legalize all recreational drugs. We've come up with 3 points of arguments that are addiction, and it's like if the person is addicted, if we legalize the drugs, the rate of addiction usually increases, and that is because of the fact that if we consider an example of an addicted person who when the drugs are unavailable to that person, and the unavailability of the drugs will leave that person in a curious state that he wants those drugs in a manner that will lead to make him go to a state that he will go intolerant, and he's going to have different social issues. That is that he's going to be violent, that he's going to be aggressive, he's going to be frustrated, he's going to go through different diplomas, different hysterical problems just because of the fact that he will not be getting the drugs, the amount of drugs. So one point when we legalize drugs is that addiction rate is actually increasing. So to shut that addiction rate from reaching a level when a person is in a state which is quite hysterical, in that state, what we need to do is that we need to not legalize those recreational drugs which are creating a problem with the person in himself. The second point of argument that we really had was when the drugs are legalized, they're readily available everywhere. Every other person is having an easy access to those drugs. When every other person is having an easy access to those drugs, then the point that comes up right here is that the drugs would be cheap. And anyone here cannot actually cannot raise a point on a fact that those drugs would be of the same quality, of the quality that has been provided. Once they are cheap, that means the quality is being affected, and that the drugs when we can take an example of cigarettes, which are actually not banned in our society right now. They are not illegal. They are readily available for everywhere. But who ensures you that you can go ahead and have those cigarettes, and then who assures you that you won't be having any kind of diseases, you won't be having any kind of problems and later medical effects on yourself? So we cannot say that by legalizing drugs and ensure that there would be a limited amount of drugs given to the person, so they would not be harmful to health issues. They would be actually harmful to health issues because of the fact that whether you take small amount of drugs or large amount of drugs, they are not the prescriptional drugs. They are the recreational drugs. Once they are not prescriptional drugs, that means they are not prescribed by anyone. They are not the ones that has to be used for some benefit. When one drug which has to be used for any kind of benefit, that means that drug is actually harmful to your health. So our third point that was about health issues. That health issues, when you legalize drug, health issues reaches to a state where like there are different kind of diseases propagating in society just because of the drugs that has been secured. One thing that I want to talk about is the government, like the proposition said, that the government would be getting the benefit. There would be more expenditure for the government rather than black market getting the benefit. Then there is a point over here that we can invest in something else. Like police can get into that state. There are certain other issues of society that can get into that state rather than legalizing them. Because what is the use of eliminating one evil and then promulgating the other evil in the society? If we are benefiting one person, what is the use that if you're benefiting one person and the other person is being misused by the same benefit that has to be, that has the quality, that has the value for the person before? That means if it is benefiting, it is actually harming as well. So what's the use? It's still on the verge. It's still on the stake. So basically, judiciary, basically there are other things that can be done rather than actually stepping ahead and promulgating an evil in the society, which is of no use. The policy that that we will have to, we should not legalize drugs because it is no use to get yourself into a state where an evil is killing another evil. Thank you.
Give a one rebuttal on the point that she stated about the fact that the quality is being reduced because of easier access. We do not accept that, because when something is government regulated, its quality will actually be better. It has less chance of other contaminations. So that is why the quality will not actually be reduced. It will be increased, which will reduce the health hazards for the people using the recreational drugs.
Addiction that will go high. When we are legalizing it to a specific amount per person, we are ensuring that the rate of addiction does not go high, and we are doing vice versa.
Somebody from this side, can you tackle this rebuttal?
Which one?
Not sure. What she just said, she said if the rate of addictions are going to go up, to that her counter was that we're limiting the amount that we're giving to each user.
She's looking at it from a personal point of view, but when you look at it, the whole society now is readily available, and the prop did not define an age, so it's readily available to even the children. So now the addiction.
See, this is what happens. This is why Prof is encouraged to make sure you clearly define your policy, because when you leave these kind of loopholes, this is what you leave yourself open to from the opposition. In oppositions, you should be catching on to
But
this.
that is written.
You didn't state it.
That's what matters.
It's safe to make a mistake. This is a training room. Make all the mistakes you want. The more mistakes you make, the more we learn. Okay? What I'm pointing out is that when proposition leaves itself open like this, which it does often enough, alright, I've lost count of the number of debates where Prof leaves itself open to these kind of counters. Alright, they left open, made it readily available to everyone. Alright, now the op counter that I was actually looking for here was the reason why Naima is right. Okay, you will have rate of addictions going up is because of the fact that you have plenty of casual users starting to use drugs. People who may not have used it otherwise, but hey, dude, there's a packet of cocaine lying there. I don't know what it tastes like. And you just go and try it once, I'll do it once and I won't do it again. And then you like it, you try it one more time. So you have casual users getting addicted. Okay, and that is what Naima's argument should have looked at. Casual users. Okay, I'm just improving your argument slightly.
That's one thing. About the age bar, we did have the age bar. The clear thing that if there's an age bar, then there is room for a black market being there to provide it to the people who are restricted by law.
That's the other thing. Again, that's something that could have come from the opposition. Okay, you're creating a black market, you're not curbing, you never curb the black market completely. And the fact that you're setting a cap is because they cannot even set that. By the way, is also giving it. Sure? There's something inherently wrong with their case.
With the Prof or the op?
Both sides for now. Primarily it's Prof's fault. Can you point it out?
Well, you're saying that
there's a fundamental issue at the topic level, not even at the arguments level, at the topic level.
Okay, the thing is, the topic was that you're going to legalize all drugs, right? But you're putting a cap, you're putting a limit to how much quantity you're going to give.
No, listen to, did you hear what he said?
What did he say?
Alcohol and
that's a problem.
not allowing cocaine.
I don't know the definition challenge, but I wanted to bring it up.
It's grounds for definition challenge.
The topic says you're going to legalize all recreational drugs.
The idea that you came up with of restricting quantity is applicable. But you cannot say that gee, heroin and cocaine are bad news, therefore हम उनको बिल्कुल ही legalize नहीं करेंगे. All right, Brian.
So my name is Brian, and my house would legalize all recreational drugs for all people 21 of age or above. We would have registered drug users and we would have proper health checks to reduce the maximum harmful effects of the drugs. Our first line of argument, by legalizing all recreational drugs, black market is totally or to a limit it's eliminated. Our second line of argument, legalizing recreational drugs eradicates social evils. Our third line of argument, legalizing recreational drugs gives us freedom of choice. Speaking in favor of the first line of argument, by legalizing recreational drugs, black market is totally, not totally, but to a limit it's minimized or it's eliminated. Drug purchase and sale is regulated. the money that is going to the black markets is now going to the government. So it is in one way a source of economy, or it's somehow reducing the burden on the government. Secondly, once it is in the hands of the government, we get good quality drugs, having less harmful drugs. Our second line of argument goes towards the eradication of social evils by regulating or by getting the rights under the government. We have good quality drugs. Secondly, a teenager, we take an example of a teenager. Recreational drugs are basically taken by most of the teenagers because it reduces frustration, it reduces tension, right? And if you if you legalize your recreational drugs, it might reduce social evils. How? A teenager might commit crimes when he is at an extreme of frustration. If he takes recreational drugs, his frustration level gets low, and he might, get away from committing a crime or something. Secondly, eradication of social evils increases employment, right? You can have farmers or poor people who could have drugs being produced, and this is source of an economy for the lower class. Thirdly, our third line of argument is we cannot violate freedom of choice. You have no right to tell people that, okay, you are at an age of 21 and now you're not totally independent. It's his right, it's his choice. If he wants to make, he wants to take drugs for whatever reason he wants. Right, so that's all.
Before I ask for rebuttals, I'm going to throw in one thing about it. Whenever you talk about freedom of choice, especially when you're talking about legalizing something which is inherently harmful, please spend a little more time justifying yourself. Otherwise, your freedom of choice is going to get horrific. The analogy that you should use here, for example, is the freedom to drink. Current laws say you can drink all you want. But the only thing that you cannot do if you're drunk is drive. Otherwise, go ahead, drink as much as you want, drink yourself to death. Nobody's going to stop you. Right? And basically, on that ground, you strengthen your case for legalizing all these drugs as well. You already allow people the right to be stupid. Only extending it slightly. By allowing people to drink themselves to death, we are giving them the right to be stupid, right? I mean, no drinker doesn't know that, dude, if you drink too much, you're going to die. They may think it may not apply to me, but they know it can happen. All you're doing is you're saying, you already given the right to be stupid, let's extend it slightly. What's it? Always make sure you do that. Alright, opposition. Yes, sir. Alright. Give me one rebuttal.
Okay, like an opposition stated that the black market could be curbed because the government takes control, over the the drug trade. Let me inform you that the level of efforts from the drug mafia could actually increase as a result of this because they know that they now have competition. Thank you.
Alright, yes, sir.
Before you legalize drugs, you were spending to regulate the supply of drugs. Now you're spending to regulate the amount of drug and the quality of drugs. So what's the difference? What's the big difference?
Alright, one more, yeah, go for it.
They also said that a teenager can be given a drug to keep him away from crime. So, to stop a teenager from crime, are you willing to send him to a rehab?
Sorry, can you make that clear?
They said that teenagers, it reduces tension by taking drugs.
Yeah.
So, if you give the teenager drugs, he will keep away from crimes and other social evils. So, are you willing to send the child to rehabilitation center?
Why would he need to go to rehab?
When you give him drugs, he will become addicted. Drugs have negative.
I mean, you need to explain this.
This is just
Don't assume that somebody will make the links. Okay? Alright. Okay. Yeah.
At the start of the argument, you limited the age group of 21 and onwards, and you're talking about teenager taking drugs. So how does
You said that it reduces frustration. You said that it reduces frustration. So when you take reducing frustration, there are other drugs in the market which are actually prescribed by the doctor. So you could go up to a doctor and tell them that you're tense, you're frustrated, or you're depressed. They'll prescribe the medicine for you. They won't tell you to go and take marijuana or cocaine so that it reduces frustration.
I'm not behind you on outcome. Under outcome, can you please add alternate? That's one point I was forgetting, but thank you for bringing that up. There should be a piece of chalk somewhere around. If you can just add the word alternate. When you're attacking their outcomes, you can also say that there are other alternatives that do the job cheaper, better, with lesser side effects. You can also take that argument. Okay? And so basically, I just wanted to add that in there. Alright, last speaker.
My name is Basmi Bas and I am from the Bani School of Accountancy. And according to my house, this house would not legalize all recreational drugs. The first line of argument we have is that drug users will increase, which will cause their efficiency and their mental ability to decrease. Like if you're talking about students, so their efficiency and their concentration towards studies will going to decrease, and if you have restricted an age, then the workforce efficiency will going to decrease definitely. Then the second line of argument is the snowball effect. Your margin, when you're taking a softer drug, after some time, your marginal utilities will be satisfied, and then you need something harder, something more. And the third line of argument is that frequency and magnitude of crimes and accidents will going to increase. So now back to the first one. If you're a drug user, your abilities are increasing. First of all, let's talk about youngsters. Their studies will going to affect, and the literacy rate will going to definitely go down. This will have an effect on the country's economy. If you have restricted the age, then we have businessmen, we have employees, we have all the workforce. Their mental ability, their creativity, their workforce will definitely increase, then again an effect on the economy. And if you have that youngsters needs drugs to lower their frustration levels. So let me tell you, the youngsters should have the confidence to face the frustration instead of depending on drugs to lower their frustration levels. Just like a cigarette. When you're addicted to a cigarette, you just need cigarette, and afterwards you move on to cigars and this, something more harder. So you cannot just stick to one thing. Your marginal abilities and a human needs a variation, needs a change, needs an upward change. So when you are sticking on to one thing, to a softer drug, after some time definitely you will be needing a harder drug, and then you may move from something above recreational drugs, and that will again create that black market, and it will going to prevail very successfully. Frequency and magnitude of crimes and accidents will going to increase. When you're taking drugs, you feel high, you're not even sensitive. Road accidents will increase definitely. This will increase the crime rate, it will not decrease it. Secondly, they say that keeping check, and if you can also take overdoses, and overdoses of drugs also cause such crimes and such accidents. And you cannot ensure that government is not ready to spend that much cost to a benefit which is just to have a pleasure for a time being. Government is not ready to spend this much cost for this much benefit just for a time being, just for and this is a CBA thing. And then secondly, the prop says this is reducing the government's burden. This is not reducing burden on the government. Instead, it's increasing them, because they have to ensure, they have to keep in check, so it's increasing their burden, their cost, and everything.
Prop side. Yes.
I got something generally for all your
One counter, one rebuttal.
Yeah. This is a general rebuttal for all of the statements. I think you didn't make a link between your LOS and the motion, because the motion says that this house will introduce this house will legalize all recreational drugs. Basically, I think you focus entirely on the advantages and disadvantages of drugs, of taking drugs, but you didn't focus on what you had. That was what would happen if. Why would you?
Why would you not legalize it?
You were concentrating more on the disadvantages of it.
should be a judge.
And that's not something that we can argue upon. Saying drugs harm you is not something arguable.
Essentially, the only thing I'm going to add is the focus is on the legalizing or not legalizing. Okay, that is the only thing. And your first line of argument missed on that entirely. Your second two, here we came to it. Alright, prop side, I want to about to. Lady in red. Yes.
She talked about cost-benefit analysis, and he said that legalizing them is more costly, right? Yeah, so I would rebut that actually banning them is more costly because when the black market is providing drugs, you can never ban them. And there's an endless cycle to it. You spend more money with less benefit. But if you're legalizing them, at least you're getting back more because drugs are really expensive and then you leave taxes on them and there's more revenue. So you get more back from it and there is not that much cost in legalizing something. At least you're bringing it out of the black market. But banning it or trying to eliminate the black market and drugs, that's a much more costly side.
Okay, so thank you all for speakers. Fantastic job. Okay, so I hope this was good practice for everyone on preparing a policy level debate. How easy or hard did you find it? Easy. Medium? Super hard. Like something I wouldn't try. Nobody? Sure, thank God. Okay. So this is one way that you can prepare this now because it's almost 5 o'clock short. Essentially you're doing the same thing. I'm going to give you guys a box model that you can work on to develop principal level debates. Okay? And it works exactly the same way as this model does. You have general guides on both sides. On this side you have problem, action, outcome. On that side you attack the problem, attack the action, attack the outcome. With principal debates, the model I'm going to give you works exactly the same way, just that the box looks a little different. Alright? This is something Farhad developed. Essentially what you do is, you have 5 boxes taken. What you're looking for is try to put reasons supporting your debate, supporting your side of the debate. Try to put arguments in each box. The titles are political, legal, economic, social, and military. Give me an example of a principal level debate.
This has that Iraq has the right to prosecute all foreign soldiers for the serious crimes committed in their country.
Pursue who?
Prosecute all foreign soldiers for committing serious crimes in their nation, in their country.
Can we, just for the sake of keeping it chewable by everybody here, can we simplify the topic just a little bit?
For example,
No, I know, just reword the topic so it's a little easier to...
This House will take legal action against, this House believes that they will take legal action against, that Iraq should have the right to take legal action against the foreign soldiers for committing serious crimes.
Okay, it's a good topic, it's a very good topic, and the only reason I'm going to ask to stay out of it for now is because we need everybody to understand quickly. Yeah.
This House regrets the non-judicial killing of Lord Voldemort.
Okay, so this House regrets, let's write this down, it's a fantastic topic. I'm going to debate you on this, by the way. Nabiham, next session.
Yeah.
Next session, can we do this?
Okay.
Yes. So what's the topic again? This House?
This House regrets the extra-judicial killing of Lord Voldemort.
This House regrets...
You mean for the veteran debate or for the...
Extra-judicial killing fighting the prop. Okay? Think of a political argument. Is there one? There may or may not be. You don't need to fill all 5 boxes. There may or may not be.
They had followers in the Ministry of Magic, is that?
So what?
So there will.
Why go ahead and kill their leader? Sorry, you can't just go ahead and kill their leader.
Because there will be political backlash.
Yes.
Because there will be political backlash. Those followers will.
Backlash.
I haven't seen
The debaters will eat you.
For example, the Quidditch World Cup. For example, the Quidditch World Cup, you could have a similar scenario, something like that. For example, what they did at the Quidditch World Cup, we could have a similar scenario.
Exactly. For example, what happened in the Quidditch World Cup? Alright. Legal argument.
He should have been given a trial.
Exactly. Right to trial.
Challenges the writ of state to
Right to trial. Challenges writ of state.
was that precedent for
What did you say?
bad precedent for quelling opposition.
Bad precedent.
And at that time there was no Ministry of Magic order for the murder of Voldemort.
Can a government issue an order to kill this guy?
Yes, they did for Harry Potter.
He has a list. Obama has a list of people.
No, but they had undesirable number.
He wants to take care of.
Wait.
Can a government issue a legal notice, a legal fatwa?
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
Ordered the killing of Agha.
I forgot his name, but they were orders who were given
Shoot to kill orders? State of war. State of war.
What about
But Voldemort was in control of the Ministry of Magic at that time. He was ordering assassination of the leader of state.
There you go. Can you order the assassination of leader of state?
Wait, Voldemort technically was political real bad.
Pius Thickness was the minister. Pius Thickness was the minister.
Take the situation. Saddam Hussein is in charge. If you kill him, you kill the leader of the state.
Yeah, but legally.
Look at the offside. Look at the offside. Political, legal, economic, social, military. Single pager on PAO. I'm going to compile a single pager on this. I'm going to upload this to the website. What you can do is go home, practice. This week, pick up a whole bunch of topics. You will find plenty of them online. Pick up those from previous tournaments. Those who've been to previous tournaments, pick those topics up, rehash them.